Got the next people up here, Mr. Bill Brown and Mohan Embar. Bill Brown, what can I say about this man? Okay. Yep, I can't say that. Okay. Well, Bill lived about 1 million lives before joining ONTRAPORT, from a senior software engineer to owning his own web development agency for 8 years. You've probably seen him on your very own television screen at home. More importantly, he's certified in the broadsword, the quarterstaff, and dim mock, the death touch. Makes two of us. Title senior developer does not quite do justice to what Mohan does to software. He stretched the limits and definition of coding. Now, in just one instance of his outside-the-box thinking, Mohan invented a human-like chatbot, Chip Vivint, winning the talented developer the 2012 Loebner Prize. Bill Mohan's going to be, thank you, that's Mrs. Loebner. Bill and Mohan will be talking about the endless possibilities why you should know about the ONTRAPORT API before they get up here. Make sure you'll give them eye contact. They just came out of maximum security prison. So give them a warm welcome. It's badass Bill Brown and Mohan Snitches Get Stitches Embar. All right. All right.
Hi, my name is Mohan Embar, and I'm a senior software engineer at ONTRAPORT.
And my name's Bill Brown, and I'm a senior software engineer at ONTRAPORT.
Lena wanted us to share. Is Lena here, by the way? Is she in the booth right now? No. Lena wanted us to share with you that we have 50 years of combined programming experience, so now you know that. What she didn't want you to know is that Bill just turned 70, and I just started coding last week. So.
Oh, good, though. Thanks.
Yeah. Today we're going to talk to you about the ONTRAPORT API, which is another way of interacting with the ONTRAPORT platform.
Although this talk is about software applications and APIs, we've geared this talk to be interesting to you, even if you're not a developer.
That's the one thing we want to drive home more than anything else in this talk. This talk is going to have a lot of technical details. You can't really see anything with these lights. I can't see your faces or anything. This talk is going to have a lot of technical details, but we're not going to go into all of them. In order to start reasoning about how to effectively use a car, you have to first be aware of the car's existence and have a vague notion of what it does.
So, although software developers use APIs, software developers like Mohan and I, it's really you, the entrepreneur, who should know what they are, how they can be used, and how they can benefit you.
Bill will start off the first part of this talk, then I'll chime in the second part with detailed case studies and examples. If you have any questions, come and track us down at the Ontra Hub or the merchandise store, where they're making the engineers sell merchandise in a very warm, fuzzy, welcoming way after this talk. And yeah, let's go for it.
I don't know why my slide thing isn't working here.
Is the clicker not working? Security?
Security?
Anyone? How do we use this?
Anybody good with computers?
Jen?
Shake it?
Should we try turning it off and turning it on again?
I don't think it's Windows.
Oh, okay. Ouch.
You know how much I love Microsoft.
I know, yeah.
Maybe we should just go ahead and get started anyway.
Sure.
All right. So let's start with what you know. Let's say that you have a contact that you want to add to ONTRAPORT. Easy peasy, right? You log into ONTRAPORT, you enter the contact's first name, last name, and email address. You click Save, and boom, the contact exists in your contact collection. Here's an example in 2.4.
I'm 2.4 and he's 3.0.
And here's an example in 3.0.
There we go.
Ah, there we go. All right, great.
So who has the clicker now?
Landon, one more time.
Hi, my name is Mohan Embar, and I'm a senior software engineer at ONTRAPORT. Sorry.
Good job, good job. But entering that contact through the UI is not the only way. Just as ONTRAPORT provides a way for users to interact with the system through the user interface, or UI, we also provide the application programming interface, or API, that allows other applications to interact with the system in the same way you do through the API. So, for example, let's say your cool custom app wants to add a contact to ONTRAPORT. Well, unless you're some sort of crazy, genius, mad scientist like Mohan over here, your app probably doesn't have fingers and eyes. So it can't use a mouse and a keyboard in the same way that you do. But it can enter that contact through the use of the API in much the same way that you would. Not yet. Not yet. Now, APIs are not exclusive to ONTRAPORT. Lots of software programs provide APIs. Microsoft Word and Excel, for example. So that not only can you open up Microsoft Word and type a document directly in, but other programs can access Microsoft Word and create documents as well through Microsoft Word's API. So this brings me to the million-dollar question, right? You guys aren't developers, so why should you care, right? At first blush, this talk probably seems a little bit technical, and we're a little bit awkward, and we're gangly and geeky, and you're wondering what the heck we're doing up here. And the truth of the matter is that we've discussed it, and we've decided that ultimately you probably shouldn't care, because Obama's just going to find a way to tax API calls anyway. Obviously, I'm joking. There's actually lots of reasons to care. The one reason that we hope you remember more than anything else, and especially if you remember nothing else from this talk, is that, as Mohan said earlier, you can't determine how you should or shouldn't use something if you're not even aware of its existence, and if you don't have at least some idea of its capabilities. And that's the crux of this talk. I've seen some of you scribbling away furiously during these presentations. You don't have to worry about that too much during this presentation. These slides are available through the ONTRAconnect site, and our API documentation is really well written. All we want to do here is plant seeds in your fertile minds. That did not sound like that when I was rehearsing it. We want to plant the seeds for you guys to be able to dream up ways to use the APIs in your own app. So how many of you are providing an app to your contacts, to your users? Okay, I see a few of you out there. Okay, good. For those of you that aren't providing an app, you might want to give it some serious consideration. Software applications, whether they're desktop apps, web apps, or mobile apps, provide a much more engaging experience for your user than an ebook or a video or any other static info product can. Sorry about that. Jumped ahead a slide there. So that's why the big guns spend millions of dollars creating those cool, free, interactive games and widgets for their website, because they encourage the user to stick around and learn more about the product, to learn more about the company. So the idea there is that, for example, let's say you have a lead contact page, right? Lead capture page. The idea behind this page is that somebody comes, they enter their contact information, and you provide a downloadable report. The problem there is you can't interact with your user once they've downloaded that report. So imagine that you package this report as a free web app. This web app can dispense the same information as the report, but in addition, it can interact with your user. It can engage your user. It can ask them questions. It can track their activity, all the while storing that collected information. With the Contacts API, your app can call ONTRAPORT behind the scenes, building up that detailed user profile. Mohan's actually got a great example of this that he's going to go over with you later on. So your app has built up this detailed user profile, and you can interact with it. You can go into the site. You can see all of that information that you've tracked inside of there, right? I'm sorry, I'm blanking out on my very next part here. Let me pull my script out.
Go to the script.
Thank you very much. Thank you. My grandfather was a mechanical engineer, and he had this really great saying, which was...
Oh, God.
He had this really great saying, which was the best mechanic in the world might not always have the answer, but he knows exactly where to go to get it. So we also provide the Products API. And with the Products API, you can pull this very rich, very detailed product and purchase information out of ONTRAPORT and do whatever you want to with it. You can create all kinds of crazy things. For example, Juan Martitigue, you see right here, of Mind Valley Hispano, has created some custom spectacular... Where's Juan?
Right there.
Hi, Juan. I actually watched the video that you were in the other day. It was fantastic. I loved it. So he's created these spectacular custom reports for himself using the Products API. So now we're about to dive into the meat of the API, or in Mohan's case, the tofu of the API. Again, I don't want you to worry too much about taking notes or writing all of this stuff down, but begin to soak it up and think about how the API can be used to your benefit. And I'm going to start with some key concepts that hopefully you're already familiar with. Tags, sequences, and rules. Now, these are all covered in the 9 Moves video training series. How many of you have watched the 9 Moves?
Good.
Excellent, good. How many of you know tags, sequences, and rules like the back of your hand? Okay, good, good. I'll try and keep this short and sweet then, so if you're already familiar with these concepts, please bear with me. Incidentally, if you haven't watched the 9 Moves, you should watch it. It's not only very informative, but it's funny, and that's coming from me. You know what I mean? It's well worth watching for the entertainment value alone, is what I'm getting at there. So, let's go ahead and start with tags. I've actually brought some tags up here, which is a little bit odd. The reason I've done that is because I like to think of a tag as a stack of sticky notes. And each stack of sticky notes all have the same phrase on them. Now, I can create multiple tags in the same way that I can call my printer and order multiple stacks of sticky notes. Each time that I add a tag to a contact, it's like I'm sticking a sticky note onto my contact. Now, I can attach multiple tags to my contact in the same way I can attach multiple sticky notes to Mohan. For those of you who can't read these, they say, really likes Bill, thinks Bill rocks, and has good taste.
I'm sharing a stage with SpongeBob here.
Now, the cool thing about tags is that you can use tags to partition your contacts into groups of those having the tag and those that don't have the tag. Or you could get really fancy and create very specific... the cool thing about ONTRAPORT, actually, is that our tags don't fall off.
Most of the time.
Think of ONTRAPORT as the staple gun for your tags. So the cool thing about them is that I can create that grouping criteria, right? Now, once I've created these groups, I can determine what I want to do with my groups of contacts, like send them a targeted email blast, or I can put on my thinking cap and brainstorm a new product that caters specifically to that group. Next, we have sequences. Now, a sequence is really nothing more than a series of actions that the ONTRAPORT software carries out for you, one after another. There's 2 types. There's step sequences and date sequences. Now, the cool thing about a step sequence is that you can have ONTRAPORT fire off an action, then wait a number of days and fire off the next action. These are super handy for drip campaigns. And last, but certainly not least, we have rules. Now, for me, rules are really the element that they're the glue. They tie all of these components together, and they make working with an API a really exciting prospect. Because with a rule, I can express something like, whenever a contact is tagged tag X, subscribe that contact to sequence Y. I've worked with a lot of entrepreneurs over the years, and one thing that they all have in common, one of the many things they all have in common, is that they're all visionaries. And I suspect many of you, if not all of you in this room, are also visionaries. I encourage you right now to flex your visionary muscle, and close your eyes, and imagine with me for a second that we've created a slick, cool, new, make money with real estate web app. And our contact comes along and he clicks on the menu item for flipping houses. My app immediately calls ONTRAPORT and says, hey, ONTRAPORT, he said he's interested in flipping houses, so slap the wants to flip houses tag on him. Now let's take that a step further and imagine that I've created a sequence that says, whenever a contact is tagged wants to flip houses, subscribe that contact to the sequence called Potential House Flipper, which begins a series of emails offering that contact special deals on my Flipping Houses Masterclass, and so on. Hopefully you're beginning to see here that when we talk about endless possibilities, we really mean it. We do mean that there's endless, boundless possibilities for what you can do with an API. So the ONTRAPORT API is technically comprised of 3 individual components: Products API, the Contacts API, and the Forms API. But there's another element that I want to talk to you about, and that's ping URL. Now, ping URL is not technically part of any of the APIs. But conceptually, it's very much so related to it, because ping URL is kind of the opposite of ONTRAPORT's API. It allows ONTRAPORT to talk back to your web application, to let your web application know that, for example, a purchase has been made or a contact has subscribed to something. Mohan's got some great examples of all of the APIs and the ping URL.
Thanks, Bill. So how many of you have had breakfast this morning? Raise your hand. Okay, now see, if we were both software applications, then I would have just invoked your do whatever mindless thing the person on stage tells you to do API. So that's like an example of an API. And I also find it really cool as an engineer that I could just remote control you like a puppet master. So that was kind of fun too. Anyway, where's the clicker? Am I going backwards or forwards?
Yeah, you got it upside down.
Oh, jeez. We're the ones that are writing your software, by the way. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I know. It's just kind of scary. Am I still going backwards?
I have to put up with this every day.
Here we go. Okay, I think I know where we are now. Okay, anyway, let's continue on with the building blocks of the API with the Contacts API. The Contacts API lets you add, retrieve, modify, search, and delete contacts. If you have a web application, you can, for example, use a Contacts API to add a contact to ONTRAPORT after a user has been added to your system. And you can also search and retrieve contacts based on a certain search criteria. The cool thing about the Contacts API is you can also manipulate the tags and the sequences that a contact belongs to. Bill alluded to this earlier with his flipping houses, whatever example. And we'll see more examples of this in a moment. But for now, just know that you can use the Contacts API to manipulate contacts and the tags and sequences they belong to as easily as you can in the user interface. Yes, it works. Now there's a Products API, and the Products API, similarly to the Contacts API, lets you manipulate products and purchases and add purchases and manipulate them just like you can contacts with the Contacts API. And like we said before, Juan came up with some really cool custom reports, and I talked to him a couple days ago, and he said that he's willing to offer the source code for those reports to anyone as long as they don't bug him for support about that. So I think that's
awesome.
a pretty generous move of him. We'll try and get those to you somehow. So anyway, yeah, there's more information for that available on. And you don't have to take notes. These slides will be available to you, and you'll see the URLs for all of this. Finally, there's a Forms API, and that's used to retrieve the HTML for the order forms and the smart forms that you create. And we won't be talking about this anymore in this talk, but you can learn more about that in the URL over here. So anyway, at this point, you've heard us go on and on about the endless possibilities, and you've seen the building blocks for these endless possibilities: tags, sequences, and active response rules, which are covered in the 9 Moves training video, and ping URL, which is in a video of its own, and finally the API, which has good documentation available online. So now we're going to start tying these together with detailed case studies and examples that show you how you can get that usage information we were talking about, and also use ONTRAPORT to do software license management. And these things are also just the tip of the iceberg. You know, things like the custom reports and using ONTRAPORT to initiate external tasks or other possibilities. And I mean, really, it's neither me or Bill or anyone has really wrapped our head around what you can do with all of this, which is, that's the whole, well, maybe Bill has, but that's the whole point of this talk, you know, just to share this with you and see what you come up with. And I really want to drive home that this stuff has been available all this time, but like, and it's used by companies with hundreds of millions of dollars lining their pockets, like Bill said, with the interactive apps and everything. But we as a group haven't really started to touch this yet, which is why, you know, this is really cool stuff. Did somebody clap? Yeah, clap. Yay! API. Okay, so let's start with a couple of commercial established apps. And we'll look at those apps do, and now that you know the underpinnings of the API, we'll dive into how they do what they do under the covers. We'll start with Fused, which is an app which integrates GoToWebinar and Wistia, which is a video hosting platform. And with Fused, you can add a custom contact tag whenever a user has viewed a video and also when they viewed a percentage of a video. So who can shout out what mechanism is being used when Fused wants to add a tag to a contact? Not Bill. Yeah, the Contacts API. And we also recently heard that Fuse integrated Gmail and ONTRAPORT so that within Gmail you can click on one of your emails and see the ONTRAPORT contact information and also manipulate the tags and sequences that they belong to right from within Gmail, which is pretty cool. Yeah. I'm not a kind of Brendan Burchard kind of person, but feel free to...
I can do that. You want to... Woohoo! Come on, everybody, cheer that. That's pretty awesome. Thanks, guys.
Next, we've got Call Loop, which allows you to send SMS and voice messages from ONTRAPORT to your contacts. And this involves ONTRAPORT talking to Call Loop and sending something, and don't look at the slide for the answer, using a mechanism which lets you do that. So who can tell me what is used by ONTRAPORT to talk to an external application? Shout it out. Yay, ping URL.
So
and since you can also send custom contact fields along with the ping URL, we know that this is exactly what's going on. So now we'll go on to a couple of web applications, that I personally wrote. And so, since I wrote these, I can dive deeper into the details and also answer any questions that you have. The first one is called When Are They Due? It's at www.whenaretheyDue.com. And it's a desktop application which puts an icon on your system tray and shows you all the library checkouts you have for all the library cards in your household. And I wrote it for the Milwaukee County Public Library System because I used to live there and recently upgraded it for the Santa Barbara County Library System. So if you live in one of those places, feel free to download it and try it out. It's just a free download and with an affiliate program and everything. So yeah. Anyway, what I had was a desktop application which I wanted to tie to a specific machine. So there was like a license enforcement policy, and I also wanted to have ONTRAPORT call When Are They Due whenever somebody made a subscription renewal payment and increment the number of license years on the license server. So there were several ways I had to get When Are They Due and ONTRAPORT talking to each other. The first thing I needed to do was, anyway, I'll step through this like in the slides, just one by one. I won't do the summary now. The first thing we do, and I'm going to dive deep into the technical details here, but don't freak out. Just know that you should just soak this all up and bask in, you know, whatever I'm throwing at you. And also, you can show this information to a developer who knows what they're doing. So just don't freak out if you don't understand everything. So the first thing we do is we define a custom contact field which holds the machine ID. Where are these slides? There we go. Which hold the machine ID of the desktop that the user is running on. And we're going to use this later on to query that machine ID to find out whether the person has really made their purchases. So we add that custom contact field. Then we go to the order form and we create an order form for that renewal purchase. And we add that custom contact field to the order form. And finally, we use the hybrid smart form method to get the HTML for that order form, and we put it on our landing page. Now, normally, if we stop there, then when we actually brought up the landing page with that order form, we'd see that extra field as a text field for the machine ID, which is what we don't want. We don't want the user to have to type in their own machine ID. So what we do is we hack the HTML and make it a hidden field in the HTML. And that way, when the desktop application calls our web app, it passes the machine ID as a request parameter in the URL. The web application takes that machine ID, populates it in the hidden field that the web application is about to serve up, and then we see the result of that is a normal order form that the user can't see the machine ID, but it's actually in there as a hidden field. And that gets submitted to ONTRAPORT when the user makes the purchase, and that machine ID gets populated in the custom contact field. And the last piece of the puzzle is an active response rule, which ONTRAPORT sends to when are they due when a purchase has been made. And it passes along the contact ID. And when are they due, the web application gets that contact ID, turns around and calls ONTRAPORT, verifies with the products and purchases API that that purchase has been made, and it uses the machine ID to query that. So we see that, anyway, like I said, don't freak out, but know that you can take this recipe and show it to a developer who knows what they're doing. Finally, the last thing I'm going to cover is that cool thing that we talked about where you can offer a web application with interactive content to your users, and they can use the web application, and then you can track their usage and also send them targeted offers. So the app in question, which I also wrote, is called Empathy Now. It's at www.empathynow.com. And it's an app I wrote last year after winning an international artificial intelligence competition. It's an app that speaks to you in plain English and tries to help you with your lifelong to-dos in an empathetic, compassionate way. And it's pretty cute, and it's got a free level of service, so you should definitely try it, www.empathynow.com. So anyway, Empathy Now, like When Are They Due, operates on a subscription renewal model. So we do the same thing as with When Are They Due. We have an active response rule, which ONTRAPORT uses with a ping URL to call Empathy Now and pass in the contact ID, and then we turn around and call ONTRAPORT back with products and purchases API and verify that purchase has been made. Unlike When Are They Due, this isn't a desktop app, so there's no funny machine ID related stuff there. But the cool thing about this app is how it defines a whole mess of custom contact tags which track different interactions of the app. There's a tag for when the user says hello to the app, which is a talking robot which listens and responds to you in plain English, and it's really cute, www.empathynow.com. And there's a tag for when the user integrates with Facebook and Twitter, or when they post a message to Facebook and Twitter, when they send a notification, when they send a to-do. So you can see that I can use this not only to get detailed analytics about how people are using this thing, but also send the user targeted offers like, hey, I see you sent a to-do. Would you be interested in any more of my time management and productivity offerings? So anyway, that was a whirlwind tour, and I hope you got something out of this talk. How many people got something out of this talk? Yeah, cool. Like I said, we're pretty excited about these endless possibilities, and we're only beginning to wrap our heads around them. So the real story will unfold when people like you take this stuff and run with it and show us what you come up with. And be sure to reach out to us if you have any questions about this. And when you do come up with this new amazing stuff, please share your stories with us. We want to be able to showcase them. And yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening, yeah.